Today we're going to be talking about mental health and gaming, balancing esports, streaming, and your well-being. We are Xzile Esports. My name is Morbid Mind. I am the founder and CEO of Xzile Esports. I'm also a variety and FPS streamer, so I play a lot of games like Apex, Overwatch, Played Up, Skate, and I also have a Bachelor's of Science in Psychology and a Master's of Science in School Psychology. And in the state of Texas, I'm a licensed specialist in school psychology.
And good morning, folks. I'm
Sorry.
Good morning, folks. You can call me Buff Barbarian Babe. I go affectionately by the nickname Buffy. I'm the social media manager of Xzile Esports. I am mostly a gym IRL streamer variety, but I am a competitor on an FPS team for Overwatch. My background is I have two bachelors. One of them is a Bachelor's of Science in Psychology. The other one is in biology, and my Master's of Science was in clinical mental health counseling, and I am a licensed professional counselor here in the state of Texas.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about mental health and competitive gaming in content creation, and then the positive impacts of gaming on mental health, as well as talking about a nonprofit organization that we work with to write Love on Her Arms, to get you all tools today to take away to help with any mental health needs. All right, mental health and competitive gaming. So a little bit of my background within competitive gaming. I played Apex when the Women's League first started coming around competitively. I quickly realized that was not for me, and I was not cut out to be a competitive gamer. But since then, I've managed teams. I've built our organization from the bottom up for the past 2.5 years with competitive teams in Apex, Overwatch, Rivals, and Valorant. So it's a little bit of my background within the competitive space. Today I'm going to be talking about performance pressures, long practice hours, and toxic environments. So when it comes to performance pressure, I like to think of mental health very proactively. So a lot of proactive things that you can do beforehand, before getting to that stressor, is setting realistic expectations for yourself. So understanding that you have to look within to see, look at yourself critically. If I'm a gold player right now, then my goal should be to get to platinum, which is the next rank above that. If at the end of the day, you want to be in Masters or Grandmasters, that's a great goal, but setting yourself up for success rather than failure is something that you should start getting used to in your day-to-day life, and especially in competitive gaming. Understanding your flow state. So a lot of competitive gamers talk about this, but everyone is different and gets motivated by different things. Some people are really passionate about music, so a certain type of music can help you get into that flow state. Maybe I had friends who really love doing like one-on-ones to really get them locked in for their tournament. So really just practice makes perfect when it comes to figuring out that flow state for yourself. And again, practice and experience. So when it comes to being involved in tournaments and in that space, it can be really overwhelming when you have a big tournament coming up. My suggestion is participating in, content creator events, participating in charity tournaments, at least so you're getting used to what that competitive environment feels like, so that when the real thing comes around, you already understand what the process looks like, you know what it feels like to have some losses, some wins, things like that. For long practice hours, making sure that you're really scheduling breaks for yourself. You want to be able to get up and move around. A lot of mental health also coincides with your physical health, so making sure that you're taking care of yourself, you're getting good amount of sleep and exercise. And I know that's hard because I'm also a gamer who stays up really late and plays for an excessive amount of time, but really checking in with yourself, especially when you have those long tournament days that you're not sure how long this tournament could go for. making sure you're getting enough sleep, and working on your time management skills. When it comes to toxic environments, obviously, like, toxic environments are something that are just part of our video game culture, unfortunately. But what I want to talk about more today is your day-to-day contact with your teammates. Something that's huge is open communication. A lot of teams that I've managed have fallen apart because of the lack of communication. And I know it can be difficult sometimes to talk to people and give them actual criticism on their gameplay or the way that they're, communicating with you. But you have to be able to be open and honest with your teammates to have a positive working environment. And also knowing your surroundings. Obviously, we run Xzile Esports, and we talk a lot about mental health, and we are huge in the mental health world. So that tends to attract a lot of people who also are passionate about mental health, but maybe you really care about physical health, or you really care about anime. So maybe you want to find a place or a home that really is passionate about those things, so you're surrounded by like-minded individuals. And I know, we want to take the first opportunity we might get, but understanding that there are some gaming spaces out there that are not positive, that, do take advantage of players or people. So making sure you do your own research as well with the teams that you're getting connected with the organizations that you want to work with, really doing your own research in that space. And then also your support system. So maybe you had a teammate that you really enjoyed playing with, but for whatever reason, you're not teammates anymore. Stay in contact with them, communicate with them. At the end of the day, they're the only ones who also understand what it's like to be a competitive player, what it's like to trial for teams, what it's like to have failures. So personally, I love connecting with other CEOs of organizations, because at the end of the day, sometimes they're the only ones who get it when things are rough, or when I'm feeling not motivated, or I just need advice on, hey, I have 2 paths to take. What should I be doing? So really working on building your support system within the gaming community as well.
And as many people are now finding out, when you are a gamer, if you want to unfortunately start to gain some traction, you have to become a content creator. And that is just part of the pipeline. It's something that you have to do. A lot of organizations now are looking for players who have some social media presence, and that's just the fact of how it is. And even if you're not a player, you want to get into esports, having some sort of presence in some way lets your organization that you're looking at know, hey, this is my portfolio, this is what I've done, this is what I'm interested in. However, there are a couple of pitfalls that you want to be aware of, and I myself am a content creator of almost 300,000 across the board. I have been in the content creation field since 2020. I run Exile's pages, I run pages for other brands and content creators themselves. And there's a couple of things that I've learned over the course of the last going on 6 years. And I really want to share this with you because I think it's very important for people to understand that content creation isn't a normal job. There is something we call the always on cycle. And that means that unlike a normal 9-to-5 job, everything is content. There is no such thing as leisure time and work time. Everything is contiguous. There is no true separation. And the lines kind of become frequently blurred. And this can lead to a condition, what we call digital burnout. And digital burnout is basically when you just don't care anymore, you don't want to do it, and everything just falls off, and then everything you've worked for is just suddenly gone, right? There is a huge pressure here of consistency, because if you're not posting, if you're not doing it routinely every couple of days at a certain time frame, if you're not pushing daily uploads, or if you're a streamer doing your live streams consistently, it takes a toll on your presence. But by the same token, it can take a toll on your well-being. You can become extremely burnt out having to stick to this schedule, because let's face it, a lot of content creators actually still have a 9-to-5 job and having to do job number 2, which is all of this. And unlike the traditional worker, this puts you at a hazard for a lot of mental and emotional things. And believe it or not, there was actually a study recently in 2025 that showed that prolonged work hours, sedentary lifestyles for most people who work, then going into content creation, actually manifested more significant health risks than the average 9-to-5 worker, because they're doing 2 jobs. And I don't know if y'all saw, As of yesterday, there was a Chinese live streamer who was under so much stress, she actually died live on stream. She had a hemorrhage at the base of her brain, and it was actually due to stress because she was working her job and then live streaming. So this is an actual real problem that we face. This is something that people don't talk about. And it's because everything you do becomes content. I want to go out with my friends. It becomes content. I want to play some games. Oh, well, let me just take some clips. Let me record this. I'm going to take some clips for my Instagram, my TikTok, my YouTube Shorts. Everything becomes content. So my recommendation here is learn to set those hard boundaries. You have to know when this is content creation time, this is not content creation time. You have to set those for yourself, and that way you can understand, your brain can turn off and you can separate yourself from the gaming hours and the non-gaming hours, and this actually will help you guys downregulate your nervous system. This is super important that you guys set those boundaries and stick to the boundaries, because if you don't stick to the boundaries, what's the point? Remember, you guys, your mental well-being as well as your physical well-being relies on setting boundaries for everything you do with content creation. Now, once you're in the content creation world, you're starting to make fans, you're starting to make friends, right? This is where things start to become a little sketchy. We have parasocial dynamics and audience pressure. And I'm sure all of us here have done it when we're in games, or if you have a social media following, there's frequent commenters. And the line begins to blur between what is friend and what is an acquaintance. And we want to build a deep, authentic relationship with our people. If you're a gamer and you're doing content and you're streaming Overwatch, Rivals, and you have your frequent commenters, you want to build this genuine relationship so they keep coming back, and you want to be an authentic person. However, a lot of the time you'll notice is something that they start to trauma dump. A lot of people have the rule no trauma dumping. You have to understand what that means is this is your boundary. Again, we're talking about boundaries. People start to tell you their personal, intimate details of their lives, and you can undergo what's called compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is, I feel all of these things for you. I am sorry that you're going through this. Now, one person, fine, can become 2, becomes 3, becomes 4, becomes 5, because monkey see, monkey do. One person becomes the person who says, other people say, oh, well, I'm comfortable saying this. They start dumping their personal lives, and then you, at the end of your stream, are like, wow, I feel really fatigued. Why do I feel like this? Because somebody just dumped their emotional trauma on you. And whether that's that parasocial relationship is one thing, right? There's also audience pressure. And audiences aren't always good. When I say audience, I mean this in a very neutral term. Audiences can be both positive and negative. And all of us have been here. If you have a social media profile, you've had trolls. Even if you've been in a game, your chat, there's always a troll. There's always someone acting out. There's always someone acting up. And it can lead to a lot of anxiety, and frequent negative comments can kind of skew your own perception of who you are as a person. I kind of want to address that when we call it performance versus reality, because we have this persona. Your content creator persona is one thing, but it's not you in reality. And again, the lines can begin to blur because maybe you're this upbeat creator, or maybe you're the skilled analyst who does this, but who are you really? Because at the end of the day, you are a real person. What can happen is you carry that persona over into your real life, which means we take all of that toxicity and those comments and those negative things that people are saying about you into your real life, not your persona. And that can take a serious toll. In fact, there was actually a study last year that was done by Harvard that said that about 10% of content creators have actually experienced work-related suicidal thoughts because of negative commentary. That they've actually started to question, am I worth it? Am I worth being here? Am I actually good at what I do? And the sample size was people of all different sizes. It doesn't matter if you have 100 followers, 1,000, 1 million. They looked at everybody. And this is the problem. We fall into that performance versus reality. Who am I as a person? So the best thing I can recommend here is you got to prioritize your community, guys. You're building a community. And remember, you are the person in control. Your locus of control is you are that creator. This is your space. They are in your space. You can tell people to GTFO. You can block comments, you can hide them, you can delete them. That is within your power. Or if you're like me, I always talk about this because we're very different people. I take that and I make it into content. I'm like, oh, you want to act up? Let's go find everything I can about you. And, not saying this is a good thing, but making content out of the negativity. And it creates positivity because they're like, oh man, why did you say that? Now you're out there forever looking like a fool, right? But sanitize your community and use moderation and management tools to create an environment of safe people. Get connected with other creators who see eye to eye, who believe in the same things you do, and create that digital environment that becomes supportive of each other. Because this relationships with networking, guys, is a two-way street. It's not just, oh, support me. You got to support everyone else, right? So make sure you can sanitize your environment, and don't be afraid to hit the block button. Don't be afraid to hide comments. Do not be afraid to delete comments and not respond. Do not be afraid to ban someone in your community. There is no sin against it. Even if someone donates money, you are not entitled to their time. You are not entitled to anything for them, okay? That is something I want to stress. And when I say sanitizing your environment, that's what I mean. And again, the word boundary comes up. Set that boundary. The last thing I want to talk about is what we call the comparison trap, because this is a big one. When you are starting out, your account is at 0, right? We're at goose egg, and we have to grow. And a lot of the time, we'll start to compare ourselves to other people who are bigger in the same field. And we'll start to say, oh, well, this person has this many subscribers. Why don't I? I'm doing the same stuff. Or why did this video get 1,000 views or even 10,000 views, but this one only got 200? And we start to internalize our identity and our self-worth as numbers and metric based. And when we start to do that, we begin to tie our internal value to a number on a screen. And I want you all to think about that. How many times have you looked at your videos, your thing is like, oh, I only got this many likes. I only got this many comments. That should not be your baseline for your own self-worth. And this triggers feelings of inadequacy, and it leads to what we call the ranked mentality, which means to stay competitive. So like when we do gaming, if you're gaming and you're in the top echelon and you're a gold and you're platinum, or maybe you're at the diamond or you're at the upper levels of this game, there's a constant drive, right, to be better, to be the best person, or to even maintain. Because when you get to a certain rank, it's about maintenance. Can I stay in this rank? Am I as good as the next person? And that competitive drive to stay relevant can make that loss, that next 2, 3, 4 losses we've all been on loss streaks, be very personal. And the same thing is true in content creation. That next video that flops, or maybe you didn't get as many comments, shares, whatever the metric is your brain is internalizing, it can feel like a professional failure. And then it leads to this negative rumination of thought saying, am I as a person good enough? Because it's no longer about the content. The line has been blurred. It's about me as a person, and that should not be the case. So my recommendation for you guys is recognize what those comparison triggers are. Are you starting to internalize when you're making your videos, you're making your content, you're in your video games, you're streaming? Recognize those triggers. What is your number trigger? Are you starting to recognize your identity as, oh, I'm only good because I got this many views, because I have this many followers? Or is it because you did something what we call process goals? And process goals are really nice because rather than the outcome, setting myself, oh, I want to be a platinum tank or whatever, I want to get 10,000 followers, rather than doing that, instead of doing your specific follower counts, maintain your sense of agency by saying, I made this kind of video, I explored something new, and you never know what that could lead to. You could lead to a whole new genre. That's something that I personally did as a content creator. I, 2 years ago, went into doing gym streaming, and I was very scared at first. I was like, oh no, this is gonna be a bad idea. And it became my biggest success. And I took a chance instead of saying, you know what, I'm not gonna focus on what happens with it, I'm gonna try something new. So I encourage people to do that, to maintain your sense of agency and focus on the journey. I know people, it's like, oh, okay, whatever, you're saying journey. I'm serious, guys. Focus on the journey to content creation, and you will find a sense of inner peace and success, because it's not about the numbers anymore, it's about you as a person growing and experiencing. Oh my God, it's me again. So I found this really nice quote for Helen Keller. It says, alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. For as much of the negative I talk about, there's a hell of a lot of positive stuff. And there's been a lot of really cool studies in the last 2 years that have shown that gamers aren't the stereotype that people make us out to be. The fact of the matter is that we go beyond the stereotypes of isolation, sitting in my room till midnight and being alone. And believe it or not, gaming has become a powerful tool for that emotional regulation and social connection. There's a lot of research now that suggests that flow states that Morbs talked about a little bit ago, that it allows us to get into a deep immersion and challenging gameplay. It allows us to think outside the box, to communicate better with people, because if you've ever played a MOBA, you play a team game like Marvel Rivals, Overwatch, Apex, whatever, you're playing with others, you have to communicate to be successful. And it's showing that gamers actually have better communication skills than the average 9-to-5er. And this significantly can reduce acute stress also and provide mental restoration from daily anxieties. Because raise your hand here if you've played a game and you're like, I've played the game. I feel like it scratched the brain itch. Has anybody had it where you're playing your game, it scratches your brain itch, right? And you feel better. You had a really crap day. You come in, you play your game, you're like, okay, I hung out with my friends. Well, that's you playing Repo, you're playing Friend Slop like Yap Yap, you're going to play Smash Brothers, maybe you want to be like me and put yourself through torture in Overwatch for like 2 hours. I don't know, whatever the case is, it's a mental restorative break. And for many, gaming communities offer vital senses of belonging and a collective achievement, because when you win, your whole team wins, right? And as someone who plays on a team, when we had an incident recently where we're like, oh man, so we got DDoSed, we only have a 3v5 and we ended up winning. That was the best feeling in the world because we celebrated together. It wasn't just my win. Everybody won. We all contributed. When somebody gets a play of the game on our team, it was because we all contributed, and there's a sense of reward there and that collective achievement. And the only way you can do that is through communication and mutual support with cooperative play. And I think as Xzile, that's one of the things we really focus on the best is that we are a community of like-minded people who have all had our struggles. We've all had our mental health struggles, but that's why we exist, to help others who were once in our place, to show them there's another way.
Yeah, and then speaking of back to like our mental health topic, we work a lot with a nonprofit organization called To Write Love on Her Arms. They believe that everyone should be open about their mental health and ask for help. They would rather see you heal out loud than lose you in the silence. And so they have a really great tool that you can use. I'm going to click on it really quick. If you come to their website and you go to the Find tool, you can find services. You have to scroll down a bit, but you can put in a keyword. Let's say I want counseling. And then the only zip code I know that's not my own is 90210. Don't ask why. If you know, you know. But it comes up, you can see that there are all of these services where you can go get counseling. And it lets you know like the main services, addiction recovery, outpatient substance abuse, and you can check more information, and it'll let you know if this service, like cost-wise, so this is a reduced cost. They have a phone number, they have the program's website, and all of this information. All of the programs that are listed on this website are either free services or reduced price services. So this is an amazing tool if you or someone you know needs to get into some group therapy or individual therapy. This is an amazing tool to help them get started, especially if they need services at a reduced price. On the To Write Love on Her Arms website as well, they have a self-care section where you can go and get some self-care toolkits. Personally, I've had competitive players come to me with thoughts of self-harm and just wondering about life and their future and what's next for them. And even if they weren't ready to fully go into therapy yet, we've done some of these tools together where we talk about our emotion wheel, where we create a safety plan, and they've given it to their family to make sure that, you know, if something does happen, that there's steps that they can take to help them stay in a positive mental health space. There's self-care check-in worksheets. So this is a huge resource. This is free, and you can come use this at any time. So I highly recommend checking out To Write Love on Her Arms.
Good question.
And then if you guys have any questions, we would love to sit and talk for a little bit. I believe we have like 5 minutes. So if anyone has questions, let us know and we'll...
Good questions. Anybody have personal experiences that want to share?
I can ask questions.
Oh, you can ask questions.
I know that some of the people in here are doing like collegiate level esports, and kind of when you go, I guess, beyond collegiate and start getting into the pro scene, you're going to go into those amateur orgs. And there's kind of like a environment these days where it's really easy to get into one of those toxic organizations with like terrible management and, you know, a lot of bad actors in there. what are the green flags to look for in one of those orgs, and what are the red flags to look for?
Ooh. Because I came from an org, so I can talk about this. Ooh. So I actually came from another organization, and we were a league rather than a organization that focuses more on philanthropy work and has a singular team, right? And we actually had an incident where our league was 18 and up. We had a minor present. We didn't find it to the very end. And they went off. They were just toxic people. And we started to see little red flags here and there. This goes for a league too. This doesn't just go for leagues, but this goes for teams too. The red flags is look at their chat history, because most organizations have Discords, right? We go into the Discord. You want to look at the history. You can look at like specific wording. Just trust your gut on this. You can normally see some of the red flags are talking about specific players being toxic and talking directly about specific individuals. Also, celebrating toxicity is a big one. When you see that group think, that where all of a sudden the people in this little group start to think the same, and it's negative commentary about a person, about a team, they're dogging on us. I'm like, that's normally the sign you're walking in possibly a not great space. Now on the same end, the green flags are someone says they have a problem, maybe they have a venting space and say, hey, I support you, I hear you. You may have, I don't know, they have personal experiences, or when people are comfortable talking to you, or the other people in the environment are comfortable reaching out to like Morbid, they were comfortable saying, hey, I'm having a problem. Can we talk? When you start to see that positive environment where people are comfortable enough to talk to you, to talk to somebody else, it's a good environment, because that doesn't happen in toxic environments. There's no discussions. There's no, hey, can I DM you? I just, just to chat or whatever. That's normally a sign of a pretty warm, welcoming environment.
I would say on like a more technical side of things, like when you're actually doing an interview with an organization, maybe asking them things like, do you all have a handbook? Do you all have contracts? What are some of your rules, hard no's that you don't condone in your space? Because there's a lot of organizations that are very disorganized, and they just kind of come together because they are passionate about esports, and maybe they come in with like a really good idea to do this, but do they have that foundation of like the minimum of, am I safe in this environment? I know there's a lot of women in here, so for me personally, I'm like, okay, how many women are in your esports organization? Like, am I going to be the only one, or am I going to be surrounded by other women? And then kind of getting to know them as well, maybe talking to other people in the organization of what do they like about being a part of that org, and yeah, maybe looking at their social media presence too will helpful.
I love the fact that we can speak on this. Xzile is exactly almost 50-50 women and men. Yeah, we're exactly almost 50-50 down the lane. So it's really nice there, because we also have an Xzile girly pop space for just the girlies. So do we have more questions?
Yep.
Yes.
What is the best way to approach a toxic teammate?
A toxic. Ooh. Okay. So as somebody who has had the situation, because I'm the captain of a team, talk to leadership. Do you feel comfortable enough to talk to leadership?
We have.
Okay, you've talked. So okay, and it's a continuing problem. So I always say, remember I talk about boundaries. Set that boundary and say, hey, we've talked about it before. You can set an ultimatum at this point and be like, hey, if you're not doing anything, I do not feel comfortable in the space with so and so. We've had XYZ incidents. You read those receipts, girly. Read those receipts, and be like, hey, nothing's changing. If this doesn't change, I don't know if I want to be here, because here's the thing. Do you feel like it's meritorious and valuable to stay in an environment where you are uncomfortable? There's your answer. So you can say that and be like, hey, unless you do something about it, I'm going to give you one chance with these receipts. If something is not done, then I'm out, because here's the deal. There are hundreds of different places that would love to have you. Why are we stuck on one? Yeah. So don't be afraid. Remember I said don't be afraid? Don't be afraid to leave a toxic environment, because let's be real. Do you really want to be associated with those people either? Right?
Yeah, no.
So do you have any input on that?
I was just going to say, like, don't be afraid to, like, have to rebuild either. Like, I know it's difficult to, like, start from the bottom again, but both Buffy and I were part of other organizations, not the same ones, but other environments, and it was scary to be like, oh, I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to go off on my own and do my own thing. But, like, look at us now. We're 2.5 years later into it, and we're getting invited to, you know, awesome things like this to be able to do and talk with you all. So I would just say don't be afraid of those things.
Mm-hmm. I think people would respect you more for standing up and saying, you know what, I'm done, than you staying in it.
Well, that is the end of our time, but we have our contact information here if you wanted to get in contact with us or follow of any of our social media presence. We both, like I said, live stream. We post content on short form, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of that. So you can definitely come by and see us. We'll be here later at 4:30 for a panel for women in gaming. So if you want to come hang out again, we'll be here later. And we'll be at our booth. So if you want to talk to us personally or ask more questions, you can come stop by at our Xzile booth.
We love yapping.
We do. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.